When Venerable Luang Pu Chob, Thiracitto, and Venerable Luang Pu Mun Bhūridatto were staying in the Chiang Mai area, practicing meditation together at the Dok Kham Cave near Sahakon Village, Nam Phra Township, Prao District, an event of utmost significance occurred. Although Luang Pu Chob was not directly involved in the event, he bore witness to the crucial moment when Luang Pu Mun finally realized the Dhamma-element, that is, the moment when Luang Pu Mun realized the path and fruit of the Buddha's teachings and ultimately became one of the arahants of our time. It all happened on a day in May 1935, around 3 a.m. As Luang Pu Chob was sitting in deep meditation, his mind still and sublime, shining brightly, immersed in samadhi, all of a sudden the brightness and stillness of his heart was blown away in an instant. That very moment, he heard a tremendously loud, resounding thunderclap, so massive that everything started to tremble and shake. Later on, Luang Pu Chob would describe this bang as being as if a nuclear explosion had gone off right next to him. The force was so powerful that everything started to shake as if the whole world was breaking apart and dissolving into the tiniest particles. The whole scene, however, was unfolding solely within his own mind. The outside world remained the same. Never since he had begun practicing had Luang Pu Chob experienced a meditational phenomenon like this. Inwardly examining his mind, he tried to figure out what was responsible for this mind state. But in the end, he couldn't discover anything unusual. Therefore, he directed his investigation outwards to inquire as to the reason for such a phenomenon to have occurred. As soon as he sent his mind outward, it shot straight towards the nearby dwelling place of Luang Pu Mun. There he witnessed, with his mind's eye, multifarious male and female devas crowding around Luang Pu Mun. They were more heavenly beings than he had ever seen before. Hordes of devas from every single heavenly plane gathered to such an extent that the whole of space, from heaven to earth, seemed to be completely saturated. Devas from more than 1 billion galaxies clustered around Luang Pu Mun. The brilliance of their luminosity shone so brightly that the entire surroundings of the Dok Kham Cave were flooded with light, fully illuminated by the powerful radiance of virtue. And yet, the luminosity of all the Deva gods combined was nothing compared to the mesmerizing brilliance and majestic beauty of Luang Pu Mun's own heart. The blazing radiance of his Dhamma perfection exceeded all else. Luang Pu Chob would later report that Luang Pu Mun's grandeur and beauty was so much brighter and more majestic than could possibly be described in words. After admiring Luang Pu Mun's dazzling brilliance for a sufficient period of time, Luang Pu Chob pulled back his mind and thought to himself, "This is certainly due to an important occurrence in the great Ajahns' practice today. I am quite sure about it." The very next day, around 4 p.m., Luang Pu Chob went to Luang Pu Mun's dwelling place to prepare the wash water for his daily bath. Just as Luang Pu Chob was handing his teacher a fresh bathing cloth, Luang Pu Mun asked him, "Tan Chob, how is your practice lately?" Luang Pu Chob replied respectfully, "My practice is as usual, Venerable Ajahn. But yesterday something happened in my meditation that almost literally blew my mind away. There was an explosion, a bang as loud as if a huge bomb had detonated right next to me. I've never experienced anything like it in my meditation." Luang Pu Mun then asked, "How do you assess the matter?" Luang Pu Chob replied, "I started looking for causes in my heart, but couldn't find anything unusual. But when I directed my mind outwards, immediately I saw an incredibly wonderful light emanating from you, more radiant than I have ever seen before. And on top of that, I have never seen such multitudes of devas gather around you, Luang Pu. But still, I don't know why so many devas would have visited you on such a scale. Luang Pu Man answered, "The multitude of devas you saw yesterday gathered in such enormous numbers to express their anumodana, their empathetic joy and appreciation to me. They congratulated me for realizing the Dhamma-element, the complete liberation from suffering and the end of the samsaric transmigration. From now on, there is no further birth for me. Everything is cut off completely, to the extent that an arahant is without delusion. That's exactly how I am without delusion." The explosion you heard was caused by the devas saluting proclamation of appreciation and recognition. The anumodana blast created by their psychic power in all likelihood impacted your mind so violently that it was properly shaken and catapulted you out of samadhi. Luang Pu Chob later tells us, "At that moment, all of my hair stood on end. I would never have dreamt to ever hear such a statement from Luang Pu Man personally, nor up to that day had I ever heard of this term Dhamma-element in my entire life. But it kindled such a mental delight, piti, that all mindfulness and self-control escaped me and tears began streaming down my face. In that moment, I could not find words appropriate enough to do justice to that highest level of Dhammic realization which my revered and beloved Master, who was like mother and father to me, had attained. So I fell on my knees in front of him and bowed low to his feet. Kneeling with my chest bent down, staring at his feet, I started crying profusely without any inhibition. I was so stunned and overwhelmed by the fact that he had penetrated to the Dhamma-element and had become a fully awakened arahant. Never had I cried so much in my life. I don't know how to describe the feelings in my heart that day. It is too deep a spiritual experience and defies any description." Up until that day, Luang Pu Man was generally very strict and would reprimand me if I lost my composure. But however harsh he scolded me, I always took it to heart. That's why I had expected a harsh admonishment on that day. But now he said nothing. He just let me cry, let me express my feelings freely. When I calmed down after a while, Luang Pu Man said to me, "Well, look at that one, Tan Chob. See how far the mind can go. Things can be so profound that your mind is so overwhelmed by spiritual joy that it even makes you sob. Isn't that right, Tan Chob?" I replied to him, "I am speechless at the idea that you, Luang Pu, have finished your work in the Buddha's teachings, that you have overcome all suffering, and that now I am left behind and still have to keep practicing. I wish to understand the Dhamma, to see the Dhamma in this very life, just like you, Luang Pu." Luang Pu Man responded, "If you want to achieve path, fruit, and nibbana in this life, under no circumstances slacken your efforts. It takes unremitting dedication for the practice, no slacking up, no matter what. Practice as I have taught you so far. If you practice exactly as I have instructed, you will realize your complete satisfaction, path, fruit, and nibbana in this very life. That I guarantee you." Ācariya Mun Bhūridatto attains to Dhamma-element as recounted by Luang Pu Chob. Translated by Thiracitto, Bhikkhu.